Abroad Pod.
Hello, listener, and thank you so much for joining us on this 51st edition of the Teaching Abroad Pod. I'm your host, Rowan Lomas, and joining me as co-host is Ashley from our operations department. What's new? How are things with you, Ashley?
Things are good. We have some snow and ice on the ground today, so I'm feeling justified about turning on some holiday music a little bit later.
Yeah, I feel like we don't really have an episode following around the holidays this year. So maybe we should touch on those holiday feelings a bit early. And I was thinking now that Thanksgiving is past, the stores are really shifting their marketing into holiday mode. The holiday specials are showing up on the streaming apps. And maybe I'm just old, but doesn't it feel like the best ones are still those old ones, you know, the Charlie Browns, the Grinch and whatnot? I mean, my wife's a big fan of Will Ferrell's Elf, but for some reason, I don't really get those holiday feelings from the newer productions.
I hear you. I do prefer watching the stop animation ones too, like the Grinch and Rudolph and Frosty the Snowman. But a newer one I enjoy actually is Noel with Anna Kendrick. Have you seen it?
No.
It's super cute. I mean, it probably helps that I have younger kids and it's probably more their scene. But it's really sweet. What I like though about the holiday season is come September, we usually pick out a book to read together in the evenings. And we kind of all cuddle up on the couch and do some reading together. I haven't picked out a book yet for this month, but I'm thinking Ichabod is actually on my short list this year. It's been on my brain for some time, and I think maybe now's the time to delve in.
Great idea, for sure. There's one book we seem to bring out every year, but it's about it. Going back to my childhood, just carrying on the tradition. So I'm really happy to have as our guest this week TEFL graduate Dan-Stefan Onila, who first accessed his placement service way back in 2012 and has taught English for many years in China and Romania, and just recently started a new English teaching job in Vietnam. So he's going to be able to tell us about quite a few interesting and diverse experiences and maybe shed some light on his tips for a fun holiday season abroad. But first, a word from our sponsor.
With Oxford Seminars, starting your new career teaching ESL couldn't be easier. Oxford Seminars has trained more than 70,000 teachers over the past 30 years, and you could be next. Our comprehensive 120-hour program starts with live instruction from an experienced ESL teacher, followed by convenient online modules. If your goal is to relocate overseas or even teach from the comfort of your own home, Oxford Seminars' renowned lifetime job placement service will get you where you want to be. Right now, you can get $50 off your Oxford Seminars TESOL TESOL TEFL course price when paying in full by calling 1-888-225-2480 and giving the code TEACHINGABROADPOD. Visit oxfordseminars.com today to find out more.
Welcome back, listener. We're excited to be joined now by experienced overseas English teacher Stefan Onila, who has been teaching English abroad for over a decade in such diverse locations as Suzhou and Wujiang, China, Galati, Romania, and Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. In addition to his TEFL certificate from Oxford Seminars, he's earned a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Galati and both a graduate diploma in management and a graduate certificate in leadership from McGill University. Welcome to the pod, Dan-Stefan.
Thank you for having me, Rowan, Ashley. Thank you. Glad to be here on your podcast today.
We're glad to have you. So you've been teaching in quite a few different places. What would you say are the major differences between teaching in China, Romania, and Vietnam? What are the pros and cons of each?
All right, so I'll start with the beginning. Almost 10 years ago, when I was job searching with Oxford Seminars, and basically back then, what I remembered, I had an option between Colombia and China. And personally, what I looked for a little bit of an employer who would sustain me and pick up airport accommodation. And China usually still offers that, and they offer that back then. That was the main reason that I chose China in 2004, and I do not regret it. They were very welcoming. I arrived there, they picked me up for the airport, drove me to my little apartment. Lucky for me, I was not alone. So I found there another couple from US and another lady from US, and they also had a background with Oxford seminars. They had Oxford seminars from US. Honestly, because well, being a guy and I arrived in China, I said, okay, it's not going to be a big deal. It's a job. But honestly, when I arrived there, it was a huge cultural shock. It was Southeast Asia is another galaxy. And it kind of took me 2 weeks to ease in the environment. Once again, people from the company over there, from the high school in Suzhou, were very helpful and very supportive. Everything, I mean, they provided all the meals and they used to take us to restaurants all the time, and we were always invited to dinner. Okay, so it was really, really fine. It was really good. And I got used to the culture and everything back then in China. Talking about, like, to be brief, because I stayed a long time. I stayed until 2020 in January when COVID hit and everything happened. And what usually happens, they offer you a 1 year contract, a school year, academic year. And at the end, was it May, June, they usually ask you if you would like to stay 1 more year. And I did because I liked it. The other, my colleagues from US, they left. I stayed and it was good. And what I was trying to say is that is in Southeast Asia, I got to know some other teachers working for different companies, and like there's a big expat community in Suzhou, is somewhere near Shanghai. It's a multicultural place. There are people from all over the world over there. So what happens is people arrive there, not necessarily teachers, lots of teachers, but not necessarily. And it's either they stay 2 or 3 months and they do not adapt and they leave, or it's the opposite, like what happened to me. I arrived there, I liked it, I enjoyed it, and I stayed a long time. So this is what's happening in China and Southeast Asia. This happened to myself, and this is what happened, like the stories that I heard from the other people, other expats.
Either
Yes.
you can cut it or you can't, it seems.
Yes, most of the people stay. So
Yeah.
there's a small percentage that leave, but usually people stay. Yes.
How are you finding Vietnam as compared to China?
The truth is that I arrived on a Friday and I've started to work Monday. So I did not get a chance to travel around, not yet. Southeast Asia, yes, people are very polite, very welcoming. Yes. So it's a good place. Considering teaching and considering ESL, like in China, usually accommodation is provided by the employer. Over here, you have to support yourself from your salary. This is what usually what happens. So, but well, compared with China, things are less expensive here in Vietnam. China became more and more expensive, slowly. So standard of living for a foreigner, it's somewhere on the same level. Talking about classes and what I used to do in China, I used to prepare students for the IELTS speaking test, grade 10, grade 11. Over here, I'm doing actually, I'm not doing English anymore. I'm teaching math at grade 6 level. So I have kids, 18, 12-year-olds. I'm teaching math, obviously in English. It's a different program.
Right.
Okay, they also have English classes, but they put me into math and science department.
You're a subject matter content teacher
Yeah.
in a English curriculum school, basically.
Yes. 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 Well, it's a big company who employs lots of foreign teachers, and we go and we teach in the public school and in the public school sector here in Ho Chi
Oh,
Minh.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, I
Yeah.
haven't seen a lot of Romanian schools posting on internet job boards. Are there many jobs available for English teachers from North America who are interested in maybe going to get a job in Romania?
Not too many indeed. Because I'm Romanian born and raised, then moved to Canada. My Romanian experience is different because I lived there during my early childhood, during my teenage years, all right. And I know a lot of people in Romania, a lot of former colleagues from high school. And what I did in Romania, I did training to foreign trade companies. I did training for their employees over there at the foreign trade companies. For an ESL teacher, Romania, ability to save close to zero. But considering that we're approaching the holiday season and we're all in the Christmas mood, this is the time to be in Romania, all right? Schools are all on vacation during Christmas time, and you have plenty of time to travel and go around. I would advise the western part of the country if people are interested in skiing or skating, skiing mostly. There are resorts up in the mountains over there as well. On the other hand, if for people who would like to have a taste of local culture, yes, countryside Romania, especially on Christmas holidays, is great. The tip would be to get a Romanian friend, which is not very hard to get over there once you get there as a Canadian or as a US citizen, depends. They will take you somewhere at the countryside to remote places, and they have certain traditions and certain foods that they prepare for Christmas, and they're singing carols and of
Oh,
course
nice.
lots of celebrations. So yes, lots of fun.
Well, I do
Yes.
love skiing. I never would have thought of Romania as a top
Oh,
ski
Yes,
destination, but now
yes.
that you mention it, maybe I'll
Yes,
next time
there
I'm
are
skiing
some
in Europe,
resorts.
I'll check it out.
Yes, yes. Quite crowded lately, but yes, yes.
interesting. We were talking about how you just started teaching in Vietnam not that long ago. Would you say you're still in the honeymoon stage? Are things still new and exciting?
Honeymoon, like I'm repeating myself, people are welcoming and nice, yes. Compared with China, the workload here is I have a lot more to work over here in Vietnam than in China.
Interesting.
Yes, in China, I used to be at the high school over there, grade 10, grade 11. I used to have 4 teaching periods a day. Usually, I used to start, I'm not an early morning type of guy. I used to start at 10. By 3 p.m., I used to be done with all my classes and everything. And I used to live near the campus. It was really, really convenient. And that gave me also time to do a little bit of extra tutoring in the evening. Over here, I have 6 periods of teaching per day with office hours. And I do have Mondays and Thursdays, I have classes at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Ooh,
Oh,
Yes.
that would be a challenge for me
Yes.
also, I think.
Yes. Yes.
But
I mean, it's still a challenge for me. It's still today's Thursday, and I
kind of
had my
sounded
last
almost too
one.
good to be true, that schedule.
It's funny because it's the
Yeah.
opposite of, I think, what I would have expected. I would have expected to be more demanding in China than it was in Vietnam. So that's,
Depend on the school. I was lucky in China, I must admit it, yes. There are places in China who demand office hours as well. There are a lot of training centers, which honestly I would not recommend because they're evenings and
yeah.
weekends. So for China and Southeast Asia, from what I've seen, and I would recommend public schools or universities. Yes, on universities, the schedule is much more relaxed. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen
Uh,
contracts where you only got 14, 16 teaching hours a week.
yes,
Mm.
yes. On university, yes, but also the paycheck is less.
Yes.
Yes.
But for some people, it's definitely worth the trade-off. They're making enough to live a
Yes.
comfortable lifestyle and have a lot less stress, I guess, in their day.
Of course, yes. I mean, if depending on what kind of goals do you set for yourself, I mean, if you wish to travel and have a lot of free time, you can definitely live comfortably in Vietnam with less.
So on the note of salary, as you know, the salaries being offered by schools in China are quite generous these days.
Yes, they are. Right now, especially.
Can
Yes,
you still
yes.
save a good amount in Vietnam with your average teacher salary?
My target is to save 1,000 a month.
Oh, it's pretty
All
good.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about
But I must admit that I'm very careful with my wallet and my money right now, as opposed with China, where it didn't matter, and I was still able to save 65 just up to 70% of my income.
Mm.
Yes. And I used to go out on Fridays and Saturdays and enjoy expat life in China, yes. And I haven't started to do this over here yet. The only thing that I afford, I chose to live in a hotel.
Oh, okay.
All right. And what I did, I got to an understanding with the hotel owner and I pay around 630 US a month.
So you could probably find an apartment that costs less if you wanted to.
Yes. But I mean, in my case, I took like an apartment. You also have hydro, internet, water. Over here, all is included. Laundry is included as a
Oh, that's
guy.
nice.
So yes, I mean cleaning, all right, twice a week. My room is spotless. My bathroom is spotless. So
I can see the
yeah.
pros to
Yeah,
hotel
yeah,
life.
I totally
Yes.
hear that. Both Chinese and Vietnamese food are quite world famous. Would you say you prefer one country's cuisine over the other? And what are your favorite dishes you've eaten while teaching abroad or in Romania?
All right. In China, okay, because in China I've been invited to hundreds of dinners and dinner parties and weddings. Yes, I've been to probably 6 or 8 weddings in China. I've tasted everything that I've been offered. Some dishes I didn't enjoy too much, and I just, well, out of politeness, I had to eat. Some other dishes, yes, I liked. What were they? I don't know. I'm sorry. I mean, yes, basically, yeah, it's chicken, it's pork, a little bit of beef, and the way they cook it, it's different. In the same city, you go to a different place, one block away, there are hundreds, tens and hundreds of restaurants, and the food is not the same.
Hmm.
All right. In Vietnam here, people say, and I kind of feel it, it's healthier, probably.
Mm.
Lots of herbs, veggies, yes, it's good. I mean, it tastes nice. Now, if you're looking for Western food, if you're looking for a steak, for example, because, well, a steak in China, to find a good steak, it's a challenge. Even in Shanghai, you gotta know places or ask people who know places with like steak. Otherwise, they're doing their best. They're trying, but it's not the same steak that you get in Canada or US. It's not the same, definitely. Romania, on the other side, well, it's European. It's closer to all the food that we have in Canada, all right. It's also beef, pork, chicken. There are tastes that resembles what you can find in Canada. Also, well, there are plenty of supermarkets which you can find all the cheeses, all the salamis, all the cold cuts, which in China it's a little bit hard to find. I mean, Suzhou is a big city. Like I had to take a taxi for half an hour to 40 minutes to go to a supermarket and get some salami and some ham and baguettes for a week or two and put them in my freezer. There was nothing around.
Have you tried what's that sandwich in Vietnam? Very
Oh,
popular,
banh
banh
mi.
mi.
I could smash that any day of the week.
Have you tried their banh mi?
Oh, well, honestly, not yet.
All right, put it on your
Probably
bucket
I
list. I hear
probably
they're
I
very
did.
good.
Probably
You won't regret
I
it.
did. Probably I did, and I didn't know what I ate.
What about soups? I know Eastern Europe generally quite famous for soups, stews.
Yes.
How would you compare like a Romanian soup to a Vietnamese pho? Did you have a preference?
Obvious. Well, they
Very
hard to
different, I imagine.
Yes. Over here in Vietnam, they're light, nice and tasty. In Romania, they're thick and they add a lot of sour cream in them. All right, lots of meat. Like going to Romania and well, be careful if you stay there and if you eat in every house that you enter, you might get you might gain a little bit of weight. It depends. Like keep on exercises if you go there, right?
Very different styles of soups. The
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
brothy versus the very chunky,
Yes,
meaty
it
Hearty.
is.
gravy
Yeah.
soup.
Yeah.
What about drinks? Any beers, cocktails you wouldn't really find
All
anywhere
right.
else that you'd recommend?
I'm a beer guy, okay. China, they have the famous their brand over there, Tsingtao, which is it's good beer. And it's well light. It's light. When I say light, it only has 3% alcohol. So you can have lots of beers and you do not lose your
Not hitting you as
composure.
hard.
Or I mean, you're going to be okay if you go a night out and you're having a little bit more. It's all right on Tsingtao. China also lots of expat places. On expat places, it's a little bit expensive. Over here in Vietnam, I only like it's been 3 months already. I only went out once.
Not an expert on the local beer scene
Yeah,
quite yet.
no, not yet. No, I went, of course, to an expat place, expat spot. It was a internation event. So yes, from people, especially people going and traveling and going on ESL for the first time, I would recommend. There's a website, Internations, and you can get in contact with other expats. That's a way to meet people and to get like networking, to do a little bit of networking. Yes, it helps,
Sorry, what's the
especially
website again?
Internation, internation.org, I believe.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Thank you. We'll look that up.
Yeah.
You haven't done too much traveling in Vietnam yet,
No.
but what would you say are some hotspots for travelers to China and Romania?
Usually like in China, I went to a crazy place, like amazing place. From Shanghai, I took a plane and I went to northern China, close to the border with Russia, near Siberia, at Harbin. And that city used to belong more than 100 years ago, used to belong to the Russian Empire. And in the middle, like in downtown, they still have a Russian cathedral. which resembles to the Russian cathedral that they have in Moscow with those
Yeah,
onion.
very
Yes,
distinctive. Yeah.
yes. Well, obviously, it's not in service anymore. It's a museum. And well, probably you'll laugh, but I mean, in China, in Shanghai, they don't really have winter. Wintertime, it's somewhere around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. All right, it's a joke. And I went to Harbin, and yes, Montreal, 20 below.
Yeah. It's much
Lots of
colder in
snow,
the evening.
yes.
Nice taste of winter in Harbin.
Yes, 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 yes.
For Vietnam, just out of curiosity, have you joined the mobs of scooters?
No, no, there are rivers. Like it's like fluids and rivers of motorbikes, and it's amazing. Yes,
Looks a little
yes.
intimidating to me. I don't know if I'd have
Uh,
the guts to give it a shot.
all right. I haven't yet, because what they do here at the company that I work for, from the office, usually we embark on taxis and we go to our schools that we're supposed to teach for that day. So, well, I haven't been on a motor scooter yet. And again, the reason that I chose this hotel is because it's a 5 minute walk to the office.
Nice, very convenient.
Yeah, it's downtown Ho Chi Minh, really good area, good neighborhood. It's nice and very close to work. So yes. But I mean, my colleagues from the company, yes, some of them that they started 2 or 3 years ago, and they do ride motor scooters. Yes, I look at them and well, I admire them.
My sister
All
did
right.
it. I definitely
Yes.
was impressed that she was out there on those, what are they, 10-lane roads,
Yes, yes,
masses
yes.
of scooters.
Usually one-way roads, and they're motor scooters. Yes, but it's a good. I mean, had it been cars, would have been impossible.
It would take a long time to go anywhere, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
had it been
you
cars,
mentioned earlier the holiday season is upon us, so I'm just curious what your experience is with celebrating abroad. What advice would you have for those new to teaching overseas to plan a good time and not get feeling lonely or isolated while they're teaching abroad?
well, unfortunately, holiday season Southeast Asia is a little bit like you get a little bit lonely. In China, they have Christmas decorations everywhere, and yes, Christmas carols and music, and all the stores and all the shops and all the malls that you get in. Yes, I'll be very honest, it's not the same, all right? Christmas, we all wish to be with our family, friends, and in China, yes, I mean, if you get good company and if you get like good friends and expat friends and even local friends, Chinese, they wish to celebrate Christmas. Yes, it's doable. There are lots of places who organize special events on Christmas, Christmas Eve. Of course, the New Year's Eve parties in China, yes, very, very, very wild and yes, fun. Yes.
I guess on the plus side, you can have that kind of little party with your friends, and then you also get Chinese New Year, which is for the Chinese
Yes.
the biggest
A
celebration of
much
the year.
bigger celebration.
Yes. I mean, yes. Usually the schools do not have time off, but depending on the employer, all right, they allow 1 or 2 days off
For Christmas.
for Christmas. Yes, yes.
And then you get, what, a couple of
Or-
weeks for Chinese New Year usually.
If you're teaching in public schools, you get up to a month.
Wow.
Sometimes I had 5 weeks, and they were like full paid,
Nice.
which is an advantage.
That's a
yes.
deal.
Yes, it is a deal. Yes, yes, yes.
now that we're talking about teaching again, in terms of your classroom, what are your students' ages as class sizes currently? How does it compare to other teaching jobs you've had?
All right, currently I'm having 11, 12 years olds, I believe, grade 6. I class size 40 students, up to 40, 35, 36, 37, depends. Well, they're disciplined, all right. There are no discipline issues or behavior. I mean, it's you can have your class and they'll just be quiet and listen to you. Sometimes there's too quiet and they're looking at you and you wonder, do they follow or don't they? Do they understand or they don't? So, right. And out of 35, 36, at least 10 you can spot that they're on. And especially like right now doing math and science, the advantage is that they already know they know the material because they already did it in Vietnamese. And the program is to overlap all the curriculum in Vietnamese with the English
Oh, interesting.
curriculum, all right, and that helps them to develop language skills because they already know the concept and re-explaining them in English, all right, they develop a better understanding. So it's also for English language purposes, yes. And well, most of them, yes, they just had like last week, we had midterm exam. More or less, the average would be 75 to 80%, which is not bad. Could have been better because it was easy, all right. But well, in China, different high schoolers, and actually in China, they were preparing for the IELTS because they needed the IELTS in order to come to Canada, to Niagara Falls. It's called Kent School, Canada, in Niagara Falls. They do their grade 12 and they get the Canadian high school diploma in order to go to a Canadian or US university. So they needed the IELTS speaking. And my class size in China was 8 to 12 students.
Oh, wow. Very different.
Yeah, it was very different, yes. And I only had 4 classes, so I knew them as my own kids, my own, like, I knew them very, very well. I used to see them every day.
Did you have a
Okay.
co-teacher in either of those situations?
Here in Vietnam, yes. Yes, there they call it a academic coordinator.
So
All
they're in the
right. Well,
class with you at the same time?
yes, yes, yes.
That's nice. Do they help with any of the classroom management or curriculum
If
planning?
yes, they're there to help. Yes. Honestly, I didn't have any issues yet. They are there if sometimes they do not understand something, or also when we had the midterm last week, just to make sure I gave them the instructions in English, and then the academic coordinator, the TA, this is teacher assistant, they also gave them the instructions in Vietnamese, just to make sure that they understood properly what they had to do.
Now you said they're
Yes.
polite and they pay attention, but do you have any issue with getting them motivated and talking and participating? Like what
Of
strategies would you
course.
use for those
Of
shy
course.
students?
Of course. Over here, I would say it's a little bit more challenging than, well, in China, where I had a very small class size and they had no choice but speak. Over here, yes, it is a challenge. There are lots of students, all right, lots of classes, lots of students. I asked them to have their names on their desk. Some of them, they're more active, all right. I obviously rely on them slowly. Like today, I had a math lesson. The answer was obvious, all right, but nobody wanted to say anything because they were afraid of making a mistake, okay, or they're afraid that their English is not as like they might sound awkward in English, so they're afraid of speaking. So I actually named one and just the poor guy had no choice but to get in front of the classroom and do the exercise on the board, all right? So then I asked the other ones, okay, well, he did a mistake. He got it wrong, but I asked all the others to applaud because, yes, he was in front of the classroom, despite the fact that he made the mistake and he didn't get the right answer, but he had the courage to go up there. So, well, little things that you can do.
Positive
Uh,
reinforcement.
Yes, yes, yes. Reinforcement, yes. I have some of them that they have their hands raised all the time. That those types who want to do. They wish to show that they're the ones who know the material and who are able to speak or write. Of course, at the beginning you rely on those ones, but you do not want to have your class only with those 2 or 3 students. You wish the others to get involved somehow. So, well, you kind of let those ones that they have their hand raised all the time. Okay, let the others answer, please, as well. Walk the aisles, all right, because I see on their notebooks that they get the answers and they are able to write correctly, all right. So I encourage them, okay, please, you may say it, all right. You can say whatever you wrote on your notebook. It's okay. Go ahead, express it. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, all right. So yes, challenge. It's part of the job, all right.
One final question we like to ask our guests who have taught abroad is, what advice do you have for anyone who is thinking of getting certified and going overseas, but is maybe on the fence, debating if it's worth their time and money?
Well, I mean, it was worth it for me, so it's worth it. I mean, if you choose to go abroad, especially for young graduates, all right, if you wish to go abroad for a couple of years, for even more than that, 3 4 years, travel around, that would be the way to do it. I mean, yes, and it depends if you wish to save or if you wish to travel. And you need to be certified because, look, all the employers, all the schools, they require a certification on one hand, or if they don't and they only rely on the passport, well, most countries, in order to get you the visa and the work permit, you need a certificate to get the work permit and the visa. That's one of the requirements for most of the countries. Like, yes.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, Stefan. It was great meeting you
Thank you.
face to face and hearing all about your experiences and recommendations for teaching all around the world.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. And hopefully, I mean, yes, looking for other Canadians from Oxford seminars here in Ho Chi Minh.
Before we go, we do have a little job placement update for those job seekers who may be looking.
We started working with an international school in Hanoi fairly recently, and while they primarily hire for August starts, they do bring in new teachers during various other months throughout the year. So if you're thinking of becoming a K-12 English curriculum international school teacher, I'd recommend giving Hanoi a try. Their salaries can go as high as $2,800 US per month, which really does go a long way with the low cost of living in Vietnam. I think Stefan kind of highlighted how much you can save there if living fairly reasonable lifestyle. And we also work with private language schools, predominantly in Dong Nai province and in Saigon, that hire year-round as well. And as always for China, there's pretty much every type of position available, from kindergartens and K-12 schools to training centers and universities. And recruiters are now well into interviewing for the spring 2024 starts. So now is the time to be applying before those positions are filled up, especially considering the visa process can take up to 4 months.
Thanks as always for tuning in to the Teaching Abroad Pod. We're aiming to release new episodes monthly for the foreseeable future. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and your podcasting app of choice. If you have any great ideas that you'd like to share for an upcoming episode, please tell us on Instagram or email us at teachingabroadpod@oxfordseminars.com. Thanks. Have a great day.